So the spring started in
Hello, I'm Michelle Davis of the Center for Manufacturing Research at Tennessee Tech University in Cookeville, Tennessee. Welcome to the Spring 2021 Golden Eagle Additively Innovative Virtual Lecture Series. This is the 11th semester we have produced this popular and informative series. The series is hosted by TTU's Center for Manufacturing Research and the iMaker space at TTU. Additive manufacturing is a focus of both entities, and as such, this short virtual lecture series has been planned to highlight the best practices, potential problems, technological advancements, innovations, and scientific contributions in additive manufacturing with expert talks from various institutions, industries, R&D centers, and laboratories. Today, we are honored to hear from Dr. Gaffar Gailani, Professor and Director of the Center of Medical Devices and Additive Manufacturing at the New York City College of Technology of the City University of New York. His talk is titled The Challenges of Additive Manufacturing in Medical Devices. The speaker will provide his contact information for questions after the presentation is over. Thank you, and I turn the presentation over to Dr. Gailani.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for the introduction. And yes, I am from New York City College of Technology, the City University of New York, which they call it CUNY. And City University of New York consists of many campuses, like about 23 campuses spreading all over New York City. And it's the main university in New York City. Okay, today I'm going to talk about the challenges and opportunities of additive manufacturing in the medical device industry. I assume that you all are familiar with additive manufacturing or 3D printing, so I will not get into it based on that. So I noticed like many students, they are using additive manufacturing for many applications, but very few they work or they try to use it for medical devices, which is very strong and powerful industry in the US and in the whole world. And AM, as we know, is growing very fast. So every day we have something new in it. And every time or every day we hear about something being invented or a new approach or a new process or improved process, etc. So the market of additive manufacturing, which is growing very fast, is predicted to achieve 10.8 billion this year, 2021. Medical devices is also a very great industry with a big market size, valued 425 billions in 2018. And this time, 2020, I expect it was like over 500 billion and 612 by 2025. And in this chart here for the global share of the AM or additive manufacturing, US is occupying like 38% of the industry. So why we don't start linking early between medical device and additive manufacturing so we can decide where our career will go? It's going to be a combination between engineering and medical. And it's not strange. I am a mechanical engineer, but I did my PhD with biomedical engineering department. I'm going just to give some overview. The whole topic is a review for this issue. So I'm going to give a quick review for the medical devices, just to get familiar with it. So if we look at implants, we have different types of implants. So we have here knee implants, hip implants, and you have internal fixators, like it's a plate and screws that attach to fractured bones, wrist implants, shoulder implants as well. So all these pieces of metal goes in our body. Dental implants also, I'm sure you're very familiar with some of them. So, and it's the same idea. It's based on a metallic piece implanted in your body or in your bones. Some other applications also, like for example, this cranial plate for those who have skull injury. Okay, and also in prosthetic devices, you have the socket, which is for those who lost their legs, whether it's above the knee or below the knee. We have bionic hands and prosthetic hands. The difference between both is that this one is more advanced and is more expensive as well. So it includes a motor and a sensor and some other equipments. Usually people in robotics will be interested in working in these projects. The other one is just mechanical prosthetic hand, but it's still used widely. The market for prosthetic devices is also a very promising market, and it is valued at 6.11 billion in 2020. Common materials we use for MD. When I say MD, I will be referring, just to remind you, to medical devices. Stainless steel, titanium, cobalt, chromium, polythiol, ceramic, biopolymers, porcelain, and PEEK. There are some more, but I just picked the main one. What are the criteria to select the implant? For example, you have to look at the implant type. Are you going to do hip implant or knee implant or dental implant? The biocompatibility of the implant with the body, stiffness and strength of the material, the resistance to wear and corrosion. For example, for a hip implant or knee implant, I would pick titanium because compared to steel, I can do steel as well, but is less. But titanium is more expensive, but just because of its high resistance to wear and corrosion. The weight also in some applications, like the plate you have seen on the head, the cranial plate, weight will play an important role. Thermally and chemically stable, because this is something is going to stay in your body for some time. Needs for implants, like there is a big need here as illustrated by these numbers. So there is a big market there, 250 to 300,000 knee implants performed each year. Notice that I'm just talking now about not all medical devices. There are more than 10,000 medical devices. I'm just talking at this moment about just the orthopedic implants and the dental implants. But there is a big room, but it's very difficult just to put everything in one presentation. So more than 285 total hip replacements performed each year in the United States. In the dentistry, there are 15 million people in the US undergo bridge and crown replacements. And this market valued to be 3.5 billion last year. 53,000 people in the US have shoulder replacement surgery every year. So there is a big thing. The cost of these implants, by the way, is very expensive. So these are some samples of the cost of hip implants. And you can look at the price is 65K for this hip replacement. And this is the lifetime. It can stay in your body for 15 years. By the way, 65K, usually the hospitals are very creative in adding more cost. So it's not going to be only 65. If last bill or the insurance company get the last bill, it will be 65 plus hospital fee, plus surgeon fee, plus this, plus this, plus that. So you're actually looking at 80 something thousand. Billing departments are very good into this. So what AM can offer to this industry, to the medical device industry? Okay, let's look at what we have in AM. The first thing in AM is that complexity is free. So you can use 3D printing to make very complicated shapes without any additional cost. Also using less material because it's additive, not subtractive, as you know. saves money and time for low production. So you can make prototypes and stuff very quickly, and less time and less cost. And low production, now there is some issue now. We used to believe that low production is like something uh, 1000 and below parts that you're producing. But I will just remind you about this later on. No need for specialized tooling, it's just your printer and that's it, unless you have to do some complicated post-processing. Uh, so cost also does not increase with complexity. So you can make it very expensive, you can make it very complex, and at the same time, the cost will be the same. Customization. So you can customize, and this is one of the important things that we will be talking about. Okay, let's look at some of these features just I talked about. So for hip implant, we used to have titanium and steel, but now if I use additive manufacturing, if you notice, if you look at the surface here of acetabular cup, this one which will be going here in direct touch or contact with the bone, you see how it is being made, and this can only happen by additive manufacturing. And this one is good because you need a strong bond between the cup and the bone. And when you have this type of texture, this will allow surface osseointegration between the bone and the implant. So the bond will be stronger. You can also produce many parts just in one print, like this build plate in a 3D printer was able to produce so many cups. Okay. Also about numbers, how many you can use. Additive manufacturing, if you look here, this is the traditional manufacturing. So if you produce a small number of parts, it's going to cost you a lot of money. If you use additive manufacturing, this is the amount of money it will cost you. So there is a big difference if you notice. And the cost will stay the same in additive manufacturing. However, recently, we used to say this is for a small number of parts, like less than 1,000, but now we found that we can actually produce more. Some companies, big companies, not in medical field, in other fields like Adidas and IBM, they produce now millions of parts. There is another flexibility that different materials for AM, so they can offer different functions, different flexibility, different texture, different resistance to bending or to rotation. So you can see this what you can produce in just very simple 3D printer. I like this table which is produced by MIT for different processes. There are so many processes in additive manufacturing. We can count like 7. Extrusion or FDM, this is the well-known one and the cheapest one. And then it goes into others like SLA, SLM, and binder jetting, material jetting. Sometimes they have different names, but they refer to the same process. So different processes in additive manufacturing that we can use, and they can produce different materials, thermoplastics, photopolymers, ceramics, composites, biomaterials, and many others. So people can, every process can give you something different, some different type of material, different texture, different properties. Okay, let's look at customization. If I have to use additive manufacturing for customization, how would that impact the medical device industry? So in medical device industry, I would look if I want to make an implant that based on the anatomy of the patient. This may be better than using standard implants. To summarize it, usually if the doctor wants to, the surgeon wants to implant like a knee or something in the patient, usually he will look at the closest size in the market to the bone of the patient, and then when it goes to the surgery, he will try to make adjustments either by making some bone cuttings or putting some filaments to adjust the size of the implant to the size of the patient's bone. The issue is that can we make it customized? We, instead of doing this, just create a custom implant or custom knee, so the doctor doesn't have to do this. Okay, then the role of additive manufacturing can come in. Okay, because now the standard implants requires bone modifications to fit the construct, I just mentioned. Stability, it may not be stable enough. It's something that you force to happen. Surgery time will be long because you have to do more work to adjust the implant. And this will increase surgery cost also. You have seen the cost before. Long recovery period, not available for all. Sometimes some fractures, you cannot get something from the market, like a skull fracture, for example. So how do we do this custom implants using additive manufacturing? The whole thing starts with CT scan or MRI of the patient bone. And then you're going to export this scan to an imaging software like Mimics, for example, one of the famous software in this field. And from that software, you will be able to visualize all the details of the patient's bone, and then you can build an implant. You can also 3D print that bone. You can also design an implant that will fit exactly into that bone. And you can use any software like SolidWorks or ProE, and you can use more specialized software like 3Matic. And then after that, you can send it to the fabrication. If you have a 3D printing machine, then you can make the implant. And then it can be tested before the surgery, and then they go to the surgery room. So this will lead to less surgery time because everything is ready. The size is tested. Everything was done before the surgery. So less surgery time means less cost, less bone removed. In some papers, 40%. Time reduction in surgery, 50% to 85% in the literature. The implant will be more stable. Better bone remodeling, the healing will be fast. I also can fit any patient. Look at, for example, this example. This just summarize what I say. So this is the imaging, and after you take the CT scans or MRI, then you can design the virtual implant that can fit into the skull, and you can see how it works there. This, you can print this out and look at it, and then the final step, you can, in the final step, you can print the implant that you're looking for. Okay, and this is also, look at this lady, for example. She has some fracture here in this part of her eye. So the only way to make this is additive manufacturing. Okay, to design this part, and this is before and after the surgery. And you can test it even before the doctor can go to the room. Let me show you this quickly. Also, this is a very complicated shape. You can make it custom. This is for also fractures, exoskeletal cast.
A 3D printed plastic cast, dubbed the Cortex Exoskeleton, is a finalist for the 2013 James Dyson Award. Widely used traditional orthopedic casts are bulky and inconvenient. X-ray scans of the breaks in the bone allow the Cortex Exoskeleton to be printed to fit exactly over the affected limb, with an extra membrane over the point of injury. The technology is waterproof, allowing wearers to wash even with the cast on. The design allows the limb to breathe, and wearers can scratch and itch even while wearing the cast. The cast is also thin and flexible enough that clothes can be worn over it. The winner of the International Student Design Award will be announced within a week.
So this is something, I hope this will inspire you with some projects that students can do. As a student, you can do in the class. Okay. So what are the advantages of using AM in fabrication of custom implants. We said shorter production time. You don't need a technician or a skillful technician. Expenses will be less. Economical in using of materials. If you're using metal, for example, titanium is very expensive, so you'll be using a small amount of titanium. You're not gonna have a wasted titanium. And there are some costs. When you purchase the implant from outside, then there are a lot of costs involved with that. Purchasing and storing and so on. Also, it can be used in training for medical students and allow also easy creation of porous materials. So these are a lot of advantages can be brought by AM into medical device industry. Another example, for example, the helmet. Students would like to work on these types of projects. So if I can make custom-made helmets for bike riders, that will be nice. You make your own. So it's gonna be a improved fit. Okay, so you don't have just to buy anything from the shelf. If it's improved fit, this will reduce the risk of traumatic brain injury. And you can also do some design for the inner cushion. And also add space to integrate communication devices. Sometimes you can make your own if you want to put your hand something, Bluetooth or a speaker or headphone or something, you can do it. And also you can control the material properties. And in some areas, for example, some areas I know I don't need a strong material. Some areas I know a strong material. I need a strong material, so I can design it based on that. This is something that's also coming in our new 3D printers. The process is that you have to scan the head of the rider. And now scanning is very easy. Students enjoy scanning things. 3D scanning. 3D printed models also used in education for medical training and demonstrations also for medical and sciences students in college or in biology labs, etc. Another use for medical device in the industry. In fact, you can make games that's to train the surgeons. I forgot to add this one. We had a game that we made in our lab last year. That's for training of surgeons, so they can look at the screen without even looking at the TV screen, without looking at the surgery site. So the surgery site will be reflected in a huge screen, and then they can do it from there. So we have done something like this using a laptop. I forgot just to add that image. But let me show you this quickly for pre-surgery preparation. By the way, it contains some
Blessing
tough
out
images.
of his curiosity, picked up a detonator and unfortunately exploded in his face. His jaw is being held together, they say, by like a piano wire.
See, in here, Blessing, is where you're missing the bone. See, from here to there. So what we need to do is we need to rebuild your jawbone, because right now there's nothing here. Okay, and the bone we're going to use from that is bone we're going to take from your leg. We're going to take a special 3D x-ray, and then we actually virtually do his surgery. Just doing this on the table, it would take us hours to figure out the cuts and the measurements. So by doing this virtually like this, it saves a huge amount of operating room time.
He feels like it's just a dream.
I love him.
A little hard to believe.
Yeah. It's all right.
Okay, 3D Systems, as you know, is one of the biggest manufacturers of 3D printers. Okay, so this shows you like how you can use it to do preparation for the surgery and for training of the surgeon, so you can go to the surgery room with more confidence. Okay, So there are some technical challenges for AM. So it's not a freeway to the highway. There are some problems that you will encounter using additive manufacturing. Let me list some of them, or I can call it challenges. I don't want to call them problems. The first one is material cost. Okay, so the cost, usually, you know, it is not expensive, but it's not always like that. The other challenge is the machine cost. Depends on what you are doing. The machine cost can be cheap. It could be very expensive also. It can reach 1.5 million, which not everyone can afford. Speed of production could be one of the challenges. Depends on if you're making big parts, small parts, what you are putting there. So it's it's like a gray area. Quality. Okay, quality of the prints. You know that 3D printers, a lot of things you can change while printing, and these things vary from one printer to another. For example, the layer delamination, the orientation can result in different properties. Degradation of properties over time. For example, if I use photopolymerization as a process for AM, I know I will have to deal with the degradation of the material over when it's exposed to the sunlight for long periods of time. Dimensional inaccuracy. Post-processing could be challenging. Sometimes post-processing is easy. You can do it manually. Sometimes post-processing can be very difficult, and that you need maybe a CNC machine to do it. Strength also. Printers can produce different strength. There is no one code for the properties or material strength that you can produce using all 3D printers. Each one has its own code. Lack of standards also. This is another issue, has to do with regulations. I will talk about that in the coming slides. More specific challenges, material properties. Okay, then we talk about isotropy versus anisotropy. When can I consider my product to be isotropic? Depends on the way you set it up, and depends on the design, depends on the printer, depends on the process also. If it is FDM, or which is the common one, then we have a big problem with isotropy. Other processes may not have this question. Sometimes even the properties can change. If I produce an implant with SLM machine, depends on the parameters that you enter when you want to 3D print the part, then the properties will depend on that. So these things are controlled by certain parameters. So it's very difficult to get or to set a standard for that. Okay, another thing is motivation to use AM. Why you want to use AM for this? You have to have strong reasons, convincing arguments. Is it because of its speed, or to solve complexity issue, or to solve a cost issue and customization? With cost, there are also some issues coming up now with additive manufacturing. How much the using AM will cost is not an easy question to be answered. Calculation the cost is in additive manufacturing is for production is a very complicated process. Okay, we can do optimization. I can look at 4 things that to do optimization using AM and to justify using AM for a medical device production. The cost, okay, is one of the factors. Speed, and the AM process that you will use. As I mentioned earlier in that table, there are like 6 or 7 processes, and then the quality. Sterilization also is a problem. If this is gonna go inside the body, so that's something you have to consider. There are many sterilization processes, so you have to fit which sterilization process will fit which AM part. There are also commercial challenges. Okay, now hospitals, and this is a good news for engineers, most hospitals now, they try to build a 3D printing lab in their facility inside. And they found many benefits and advantages for 3D printing. So this is one model that they use to build one. Like this paper, I will advise the students to look at it and search it. the business case that started a 3D lab. How they started 3D lab inside the hospital is in North Manchester General Hospital. So many hospitals now they have this. This means what? Opportunities for engineers and for designers, and more jobs for them. Another one is to outsource it. So there are some companies now, they're doing 3D printing only, and just the hospital will just send everything they want to this company. And then the whole thing between the two scenarios, there are middle scenarios. So you have to ask which one is better for your hospital or for your health facility, which one is less expensive, depends on the intensity of use. We collaborate with hospital for special surgery. I noticed last year, in the past they used to have their own manufacturing unit, but now they contracted an Italian company from Italy that it will build its base inside or facilities inside the hospital, but will be separate from the hospital, but it will fulfill all the needs of metal implants and medical devices that the hospital may need. This is another example is a mix between two. You're putting a 3D printing unit in your facility, but at the same time is not yours. It belongs to another, it's a separate company, but they exist in your place. So that's a very interesting scenario. So it's like a third scenario. As I said, cost and expenses determine everything as the end. Let's look at this one. This is in dental industry, shows you like outsourcing, how it works. I will try, the video is too long, I don't want to watch it all, but I want you to get the idea of what those people are doing.
Align Technology has played a key role in the evolution of digital dentistry and orthodontics. In the early days, we were viewed as a technology disruptor. That has given way to the view of Align Technology as a leader in orthodontics and an emerging leader in digital dentistry. One of the secrets to our success is razor-sharp focus on our customer and their patient. We invent and innovate, bringing new products in and bringing benefit to our customers. Fusing computers and control and treatment planning with 3D software and the ability to actually customize a treatment was something the orthodontic industry had never seen. Our share of that market is very small because most treatments still are done the old way with brackets and wires. The number one thing we have to do is to ensure that we can do everything brackets and wires can do. We're well on the track to do that, and the goal is to continue that journey by bringing technology out like we have been over the last several years.
Invisalign is more than capable of keeping up the pace of innovation. What pushes the innovation is our desire to put the right tools in the doctor's hands to make every case an Invisalign case. Digital treatment planning, 3D tools. Invisalign will become more and more intuitive for the doctors. Digital technologies like scanning are making doctor and patient experience a lot better. For one, it's a lot easier to take a digital impression of the patient than it is to take a physical impression. The more accurate the data, the better your treatment outcome is going to be. We work very hard on our software tools and algorithms to generate as accurate a tooth shape as possible because it results in a better aligner fit. Every single aligner is unique. Everyone is different. It's easy to make a few aligners a day, but it's extremely hard to make tens of thousands of aligners a day with high quality, high consistency, and no opportunity for error. All the manufacturing process and tools that go behind the scenes to make that happen, I consider to be a crown jewel for Invisalign.
We are probably the world's best at mass customization. It's a highly complex integration of data throughout the world that has to be linked and moves seamlessly amongst all of our constituents and facilities. It starts at the doctor's office with a physical impression or a digital scan to create a 3D model. Then that data is transferred to our dental technicians who use proprietary software to create a digital treatment plan. The proposed plan is sent back to the doctor for review and approval. The approved data then moves to our automated plant where each individual aligner is custom fabricated. Up to 80,000 aligners are made, tracked, and shipped each day directly to the doctor's office. The entire process, regardless of where it's located, is one continuous process flow, and the more we're able to use digital electronic data, the more seamless it becomes.
The Invisalign brand is one of the greatest things about this company. This is one of the very few products in orthodontics or dentistry, perhaps in all medicine, where people ask for this product by name. Our consumer programs translate directly into benefits for the orthodontist and dentist. In fact, we're one of the best practice development tools in dentistry today.
On a clinical level, it has been such an advancement to my practice. There's not a single product available, or company, should say, out there that promotes me and promotes a product where patients come in and they.
So I think you have seen the idea of this product. That this is like he used a very interesting term, mass customization. Means they make a lot of parts, but customized also. And you can see the process. It's just like scanning. The doctor will do the scanning of the patient's teeth and then send it to the company or to Invisalign. Invisalign they have tens of technicians. And those technicians are trained in CAD and custom design and with some knowledge of dentistry. In the Center of Medical Device and Additive Manufacturing that we established in our department a few years ago, we collaborated with restorative in the dentistry department within our college. And we noticed this resemblance between what we are doing and what they are doing. They're doing CAD, we're doing CAD, they're doing 3D printing, we're doing 3D printing. We said, why don't we work on something together? And we found there are so many challenges still in this industry that we can address. And there are many new things that you can add to the dentistry industry based on your engineering experience. So there are also some challenges in regulations. So the FDA still is not the Food and Drug Administration, which is responsible of the regulations of the industry of medical devices, is still not yet strong into this. So it's gonna take some time, but because they have an excuse, because as I said, additive manufacturing is very complicated industry, because so many companies, so many machines, each one produce something different. With one machine, you can produce different types of properties. So it's still not encouraging companies to get into AM. However, they provide clearance for some software to be used, some processes going from A to Z, from scanning or imaging up to manufacturing. Software for segmentation or an imaging also, some of them were approved. And also they approved by machine, which machine was made to make the medical device part. And they have very long procedure of looking at devices. So they have like 3 classes, all devices like more or less than 10,000 divided into 3 classes, 1 and 2 and 3, depends on the risk. If the class is high risk and that's going inside the body, like an implant, then that's considered to be class 3. So something you can refer to. Administrative challenges. Also, you allocate, if you're using this for pre-surgery or for demonstration or to help the surgeon, then there is you cannot claim that as an expense in the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So you allocate time, staff, money, but you are not compensated for that. So this is one of the challenges that faces the hospitals now. What we're looking for is that if we can bring together in our Center of Medical Device and Additive Manufacturing, which I'm just introducing quickly, or to bring academia and nonprofit organizations, we collaborate with one of them, international institutions, patients, and industry together. That will be a big thing for any medical device work in academia. Yeah. This is just a quick look at our medical device lab in our college, New York City College of Technology. Just showing different machines, different projects that the students has been working on. We work also in projects for some health facilities overseas, like producing this type of plates for kids with disability. also you're working on prosthetic hands and working on bionic hands. Students have time, fun time creating these bionic hands and testing them and moving ahead. One of the motive for us to work on many areas is the cost. We found that when we use additive manufacturing, we can really reduce the cost of many devices. And this is just the students also participate in giving seminars and talks. Our center is funded by NSF and started also from a NASA grant a couple of years ago. And thank you very much for your attention. I hope I did not exceed my time.